The UFC, where cheating is rewarded. When you talk about refereeing in MMA and specifically in the UFC, their main job is to make accurate stoppages. But outside of just that, they also have another important job. Their other job is to ensure the fight goes along safely. But as of late, over the past couple years, there's been more and more examples of fighters cheating in one way or the other and getting rewarded for it. Whether it's an eye poke, whether it's a groin shot, or whether it's a fence grab. But quickly, before we get the video started, my name is JuicyMMA. I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, as only 10% of you watching are actually subscribed. But also, if you guys want the inside scoop and extra breakdowns you won't see anywhere else, hit that join button, where members get exclusive videos, members only live streams, and other fun perks like badges and emojis as well. But anyways, let's get into it. When you talk about the UFC and MMA as a sport, they're doing a lot of things right. They're putting on the fights the fans want to see the most, they're putting on amazing fight cards, they're making a lot of money along the way, and a proof to the success that the UFC has been having as of late is a huge contract they scored with Paramount. But regardless of all the success and all the things right that the UFC and MMA as a sport has been doing, especially as of late, there are definitely some criticisms. And I would say the majority of the criticism that most fans would have either center around the judging or center around the refereeing. And in this video, we're going to be specifically taking a look at the refereeing, because yes, you definitely have certain judges that consistently make bad calls on stoppages, or in general, you have some bad stoppages that occur in a lot of UFC fights. But in my opinion, maybe even a more concerning issue than that is the fact that there's been a lot of examples as of late where a certain fighter would cheat in one way or the other, and a referee would actually reward them for it. So a question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, why do I feel that way? Well, in my opinion, the main reason comes down to the fact that there's been so many examples of this as of late. And the first example I want to get into is the fight most recently between Kevin Holland and Mike Malott. Now, in the fight, Mike Malott ended up kneeing Kevin Holland to the groin, which wasn't all that bad initially, but then less than a minute later of fight time, he ended up kneeing Kevin Holland again to the groin, and that time it was significantly worse. Kevin Holland needed to take the full 5 minutes of recovery that he was granted, and after that, the ref continuously kept asking Kevin Holland if he was ready to go, and eventually Holland actually got even more time than that, and the fight continued. From there, Mike Malott ended up winning a 29-28 decision victory on the scorecards. So a question that some of you may be wondering is, why am I blaming the ref for this? Well, in my opinion, I think referee Dan Miragliotta made two separate mistakes in this fight. The first mistake that he made was after the 5-minute timer expired, after the second groin strike on Kevin Holland, it was pretty obvious that Kevin could not continue. Now, yes, Kevin did not say he wanted out of the fight, and he didn't say that he did not want to continue, but at the end of the day, it was very obvious for any fan watching that Holland was not 100%, and honestly, that he was not ready to continue. So at that point, it's under the discretion of the referee to see that the fighter is not able to go and call the fight off from there. Now, if Dan Miragliotta wanted to go forward with a no contest or a DQ victory for Kevin Holland, that would be up to his decision. But if he ended up stopping the fight there and he ended up going with one of those decisions, I would have been fine with the way Dan Miragliotta reffed the fight. But the fact that he did not call off the fight in that moment, and also on top of that, he did not take a point away from Mike Malott after fouling Kevin Holland twice and fouling him pretty badly the second time, is just bad refereeing. And in the end, Mike Malott was technically rewarded with a win there, because as I said before, in rounds 2 and rounds 3, Kevin Holland was clearly hobbled. So at that point, it made it much easier for Mike Malott to sneak away with a 29-28 victory over Kevin Holland. Now, the next fight I want to touch upon is Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. So this fight was a little bit different from the Kevin Holland fight in the sense that Song Yadong, the fighter who fouled Henry Cejudo, was doing the better work for the majority of the fight. But in the third round, Henry Cejudo got eye poked pretty badly. He ended up taking the full 5 minutes of time. It seemed like he may have been good. He told the ref that he was okay and then continued to fight. But once he continued to fight, it became pretty clear that he wasn't able to see. Now, I will say at this point, Jason Herzog, who was refereeing that fight, he didn't do anything wrong at this point. The fighter, Henry Cejudo, told him after the full 5 minutes that he was fine to continue, and Jason Herzog continued with the fight. There was nothing wrong there. But in the corners between rounds 3 and rounds 4, it became very obvious that Henry Cejudo couldn't see. So at that point, instead of just calling the fight off in between rounds and calling it a no contest, what Jason Herzog decided to do was have the fighters move out or go out for the 4th round. And at that point, as soon as the round started, he called off the fight. And the reason for why Herzog did that was because at that point, the fight would have finished a full 3 rounds. And at that point, they can go to the scorecard scorecards. And as I said before, it was very clear that Song Yadong was up on the scorecards, so what ended up happening in that fight is Song Yadong ended up winning a 3-round decision in a 5-round fight. And in my opinion, I feel as if Song Yadong got rewarded essentially for eye-poking Henry Cejudo. But now, the next fight I want to touch upon is Manel Kape versus Almabayev, and if you look back at the Almabayev fight, Manel Kape ended up eye-poking Almabayev during that finishing sequence, was actually able to get rewarded for fouling his opponents. Not only did he not get a point deduction, not only did he not get any repercussions, but he actually got rewarded in the sense that he was able to find finishes based upon his fouls. Now, the next and last example that I want to touch upon is actually not even in the UFC, it's in the PFL, and it's a fight between Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes 2, the second time. As in that fight, Usman ended up fouling Paul Hughes multiple times, at least 3 separate times in that fight, and there was 0 repercussions. There was no point deduction and there was no other repercussions for all the fouls. And although you could make the argument that Paul Hughes would have not won anyway, even if the fouls did not occur, at the end of the day, it just doesn't really matter. The fact that Usman fouled Paul Hughes so many times in that fight, at least 3, gave him a real advantage there. It stopped Paul Hughes' flow multiple times when he was starting to have success, and that's really something that should reward Paul Hughes with a point deduction at the bare minimum, if not something further than that. So whether you talk about the UFC, the PFL, or any other MMA organization, there definitely are a lot of occasions where referees are rewarding fouling and rewarding cheating in general. But a question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, do I think there's any real solutions to this? Well, in my opinion, I don't think there's any solutions that will be perfect. At the end of the day, it has to be up to the discretion of the referee. You can't say after 1 foul there has to be a point deduction every single time, or after 2 fouls there has to be a point deduction every single time. Each and every fight is different, and there's different calls for different fights. But at the same time, there can't be scenarios where a certain fighter will have 2 bad fouls, 3 fouls, 4 fouls, or even more fouls in a particular fight and have no repercussions. There has to be something done about that. So in my opinion, a solution, a non-perfect solution, could potentially be if you commit 2 bad fouls as a fighter, every single time there has to be a point deduction at the very least. But if you commit 3 fouls, even if the 3 fouls are not bad, also there has to be a point deduction at that point. We can't start rewarding fighters for cheating in the sport. It just incentivizes them to essentially cheat, because if you're an MMA fighter, you're already going through a lot of grueling and difficult fights. But if you're able to land an eye poke and find a finish after that, or if you're able to land a knee to the groin and find a finish after that, why would you not just cheat, and why would you not make your life easier? It essentially incentivizes these guys to cheat, because if you do cheat, you will get rewarded for it. So I definitely do think there is a real problem here and changes need to be made. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think there are real problems with refereeing in the sport of MMA, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.